Hi guys.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with me. I know it's pretty late over there in Malta.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's always like that time.
So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
My name is Ivan, and this is
Sarah
Sarah Jane. We run Nexus Production Group, independent filmmaking outfit. We got a couple of members, me and Sarah here in Malta. We have another member in Australia, and we have another member in New York. So basically, we just make independent films. We focus on relationship dramas, and we tend to also focus on improvisation.
And most of our stories have a humanity sort of angle, so they're about relationships and psychology of characters and delving into relationships and dynamics in relationships.
So I want to talk about your improvised feature films because that's quite a unique thing. I think we don't see that much of it, and I'm really fascinated. And I think it's something that other directors are looking into doing. So being experienced in this, what would you say your top tips for another director who is wanting to do an improvised feature film? What tips would you give them?
Well, we say go for it because it's always really exciting. You never know quite what is going to happen on the day, so you have to be thinking on your feet constantly. So it's an adventure, and for us, we got into improvisation because we're just getting tired of the more traditional and methodological methods of filmmaking, the giant crews, the big budgets, and script after scripts. We just want to try something different and get onto a new path. So for us, it was about taking back the love of filmmaking and the fun of filmmaking. So new directors, give it a go.
And I think it's also a bit of trial and error. Like with us, when we did Friends, Foes and Fireworks, we produced it, directed it together. We didn't really have a formula that we've used before, but we made one up and we worked it as best as we could. And then going into our second improvised feature, we already had that kind of experience. So just trying to work it out and making your own method that suits you and the way you want to work as well.
And in terms of tips, spend a lot of time in rehearsal. There is no script, of course, so we're just working with outlines. So we're actually talking a lot with the actors to develop their character, to find what the key points are going to be, what the history with the other characters. So it's constant communication. And also another big one actually on the day is continuity, because each take is different. So be prepared to get a lot of cutaways, so you can get from one take to the next. Basically, make sure you have enough coverage to make sure you can put this film together in post.
And do you edit your own work?
We do, yes,
Yeah.
all the time.
So what about for somebody, because you would have that eye, what about for a director who doesn't have the experience in editing? Would the risk sort of be to get too much footage or not enough footage? How do you know once you've got enough?
That's kind of more a question for me because I'm not really an editor. I've just started editing now. I think I edited 2 of the behind the scenes trailers. I've just been playing around with that, learning. So for me, I'm lucky because I have Ivan there. I'm like, is that going to cut together well? But when you've been on set and you've kind of know the process, you sort of know a little bit like, okay, she walks in here, you need to get a shot of that happening like that. So you kind of have to have a bit of a background, I think, when you're doing a bit of improvised filmmaking in other areas. But I think mainly I always say have a good crew around you. So if you have someone who can actually talk you through it and say, okay, well, how I have Ivan on set, and he sort of helps me out with that and says, but we have to cut this and that. But I reckon I would say get as much footage as you can and try and think of it logically, take your time and actually think about how it is going to pan together, because we also use improv. We don't really have a shot list either. We just know the beats and then we just make it up on the day, so everything's improvised. So even our shot list is improvised. We don't have really an idea when we go on set, so we have to think about it logically and take time on set to actually think about it and allow time in the schedule too, to actually give yourself time to process how it's going to work as improvised. And you have to really watch the characters as well, what they're saying, if it's going off track, because then that will actually take the story in a different direction as well.
And so what about actors? Because I know not many actors love the idea of going into an improvised situation and feel more comfortable with a script. How did you go about finding actors that were willing and able to do that on set?
Well, for Friends, Foes and Fireworks, we already worked with all the actors that we cast, so we knew their strengths, we knew they had theatre backgrounds and they could, think on their feet. So we approached them individually, like this is what we're planning, improvised film, one night, New Year's Eve. Do you want to go on this crazy adventure with us? And luckily for us, they did. So we cast people we knew for that film, but then we wanted to do another one called Incorporate, which we shot in Australia, New York, Berlin, and Malta. And some of the cast in that one we did not actually know beforehand. So, we held auditions, and during the auditions we'll play improvised games. We'll approach the audition as if they character right away to see how they respond. So catch them by surprise and see how they react. But also we'll just look at their shows and study their background. Do they have theatre experience? Because it's a live experience. So often things go wrong and you have to adjust on the fly. So things like that, it all adds up.
There's a lot of trust as well. There has to be a lot of trust between the directors and the actors, and a lot of time spent with them. And you can tell. We had people that actually said yes to us and then they pulled out because they were like, I don't think I can pull this off, I don't think I can do improvise. So you can kind of tell when someone's the confidence, I think, to do it as well. Mm-hmm. And that's Pros and Fives was a test for everybody. So we knew that we had the right actors because we did before. But with Incorporate was a bit more of a risk.
What was it like filming in 4 different countries? Did you take your crew around or did you find them in each individual country? That's amazing.
It was each individual country, so 4 crews in 4 different countries. Mm-hmm. It was great. We started in Melbourne because we were living there at the time, and we knew we were going to Malta. So, we wrote a story based around Malta's identity. So we're kind of writing these outlines as we're traveling. We're going to go to the American film market for Friends, Foes and Fireworks. And, we have a friend who lives in New York. So, want to stop in New York on the way to LA and do another section of the film.
And we'd already shot with Clara in Melbourne already. So she's part of Nexus Production Group. She's a producer and actor. She currently lives in New York. So originally from Australia. So it started with her coming down to Australia. And we're like, we need to do another improvised film. Let's do a short film just to test it, something like a little skit or something. And then we ended up being a feature, and that was the start of Incorporate. And then after being in Melbourne with Clara, okay, we can continue Clara's story in New York because she lives in New York now. So it kind of
we kind of build our films around life as it happens. That's human relationships. It's what's the most fascinating to us, human behavior and relationships. So a lot of what we draw on is what we either experience ourselves or witness our friends going through.
And tell us a little bit about the projects and where they're at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 micro improvised films, micro shorts. So one's called First Impressions. That's which one we shot in Malta before we actually went away for Christmas, and that's going to be released soon, I think.
Probably 1 week, that one.
Yeah, 1 more week. So that was shot in Malta. And then while we were in Melbourne for Christmas seeing family, we shot another Life Improvised. We have this little series called Life Improvised, which you put on our YouTube channel. They're free to watch. So little improvised films, about 4 minutes long, shot in Malta mostly, but 1 in Australia now. So if we travel, we will probably do some more in other countries. And so we'll have 3 of them up by probably mid-year, hopefully, 3 of those Life Improvised. And then we also have Incorporate, which we're trying to finish now.
Mm-hmm. Incorporate
mid-year.
Incorporate is in post-production. It's probably a couple of months away from being finished. So once that's done, we'll do the cast and crew screenings. We're one done in Melbourne. We're there for Christmas, but we'll travel to other countries, do the cast and crew screenings, and then try to organise the actual cinema screenings for
self-distribute, I think.
For the film also. Mm. And Friends, Foes and Fireworks, which is from a couple of years ago now, but that's currently available on Amazon, on Vimeo on Demand, and Ozflix, and there's more platforms that it's being put on at the moment. So that one is available to stream, and actually on DVD also. If you're in America, it's actually selling on DVD.
Yeah, through Barnes and Noble, Walmart, and I think Target as well.
Yeah,
so on DVD.
And we have another feature called To Hold the Moon in development, which which are aiming to hopefully get off the ground this year, but we want to raise funding for that. So it's always, the difficult process, but, we're giving it our all.
Yeah, and is that going to be improvised as well?
Of course it is.
Yeah, shot in Malta and London.
Oh, wow. What do you think that you've learned from making 2 features improvised before that you can now take on board with this that you perhaps didn't do in the last 2?
Well, for me, the
coverage, I think.
Yeah, the big one was
getting enough coverage.
Yeah, continuity and coverage, how every single take is different, making sure even when you think you have enough footage, go and get more footage. And just getting technical. I'd love to have some dual HD monitors on set.
Yeah, it makes it easier.
Because what you find, the style is kind of run and gun, like documentary style. So you're running around with the camera, but the monitors are really, they're small, so you'll miss stuff like a boom shadow, in the corner and stuff like that. So for me, I love to have monitors. I love to put them in 4K just to have more leeway in editing and stuff like that. So that's what I've learned, technical stuff.
I think it's that what we've learned overall. Yeah. So we shared all our insight about how we made Friends, Foes and Fireworks in our Udemy course, which is how to shoot an improvised feature film in 24 hours. So yeah, so you go on there and there's 10 chapters in total about how we actually went through the process. So it's more about how we actually shot Friends, Foes and Fireworks, but it is very educational on what we learned, troubleshooting as well, and errors and all that was all in there. So everything from rehearsals with actors beforehand to what happens on the day schedule all the way to troubleshooting.
So tell us where we can find you online.
NexusProductionGroup.com is the website. We have a YouTube channel as well. You can watch a lot of little snippets there of incorporate. We put all the little snippets from each country, a little scene snippet from each country there. We're even putting our ladies up there, our little micro short from Malta, and then we're going to have the other 2 up there for improvised. So Our Lady, First Impressions and Exchange will all be on there for free to watch. And we also have a Vimeo channel, Vimeo On Demand, where you can watch Daughter, our short film starring Catherine Langford. And you can also watch Friends, Foes and Fireworks on there, and I think there's a couple more.
We're on all the socials.
We're on all the platforms. We're on Instagram.
Yeah, we're easy to find. But basically, if you just go to the website, Nexus Production Group, .com, all the links are from that website, so it connects to everything.
We've got a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. Can't wait to see your future work and what amazing things you bring into this world.
Thank you so much.
You.
Good to talk.
Yeah.